The Detroit Pistons take down the Atlanta Hawks to win their 11th straight game as they continue to put the entire NBA league and fan base on notice.
You are Locked On Pistons, your daily Detroit Pistons podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's the deal? Welcome back to another episode of the Locked On Pistons podcast. Per usual, I am your host, Khahil. You can find me over on Twitter at Khahil. I've been covering the Detroit Pistons for the last 4 years, been a credentialed media member over the last 3 years, and I appreciate all of you guys who make Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. And I thank all of you guys who help make Locked On, the Locked On Podcast Network, the number one sports podcast network in America. I appreciate all of you guys' support. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Head to FanDuel.com to get started today. Today, we'll be talking about the Pistons' win over the Atlanta Hawks, how well they played in this game, and why this was such an important win to me. Also, later on, we'll talk about how good the half-court offense has been and whether that is a solved problem. And then also, I want to talk about unlikely contributors. I want to kind of dive into the rotation a little bit more as well. We've talked about the rotation a lot the last few episodes, but I want to dive into it again and also give credit to a lot of these unlikely contributors to the team. If you're wondering why I did not have an episode immediately after the Pistons win versus the Hawks, for those of you guys who don't follow me on social media, I am dealing with some incredible pain in my right ear, a very severe ear infection apparently, and it's making it very hard to talk, very hard to move my mouth at all. And right now I am on a lot of medication, so the pain's subdued a little bit. So I was like, you know what, while that's the case, let's see if I can knock the podcast out and just talk slowly and not be as, passionate, I guess, when we record the podcast and get you guys an episode still. So appreciate all of you guys, but let's go ahead and get into today's episode. Just wanted to give you guys an update on why the scheduling release was a little different for this one. I'm going to try to continue to drop them normally moving forward. But enough of all that stuff. You guys don't care about that. You guys want to hear about the Pistons. And the Pistons get a win, 120-112 over the Atlanta Hawks. They have won 11 straight games. And before this game was played, on the previous podcast, I said that there was a lot of people saying that the Pistons' strength of schedule was the whole reason why they were on this big win streak. They're playing a bunch of tomato cans. They're playing nobody who really matters. They're playing a bunch of bum teams. Even though they beat the Orlando Magic, who everyone told me was going to be better than the Pistons. Even I thought the Orlando Magic were going to be really good this year. They beat the Orlando Magic. They've beaten the Houston Rockets this year. That's the team I was told is going to be, a Western Conference contender. It is what it is. But coming to this game, they're playing against an Atlanta Hawks team that was over the previous 10 games, 8-2, and had the fourth best defense in the entire NBA. And yes, they were without Trae Young, but there's a lot of speculation about whether they're actually better without Trae Young. That's a big thing going on in the Hawks fan base right now. So this was not the Pistons took advantage of a team that was injured. The Pistons took advantage of a team that wasn't very good. No, this was a very competitive game, and this was a very competitive team, a very respectable team that the Pistons got a win over. And again, the Pistons, for all this injury talk, the Pistons are winning these games without any. Ausar has missed 4 of these games. Cade's missed 3. Tobias has missed 8. Stu, I believe, has missed 3 or 4. Duren, I believe, has missed 2. The whole injury excuse is not one to use against the Pistons. The Pistons are dealing with injuries up and down the roster and are still not fully healthy. Ausar wasn't even able to start and play this whole game. So, I reject that whole premise. Anyways, the reason why I bring all that up is because the Hawks were playing very well. And I want to bring up some stats to kind of back this up. Over the previous 10 games that the Atlanta Hawks had played, I'm bringing this up to buffer the Pistons' apparent quote-unquote quality of wins. So if people try to dismiss this one, I just want to rebuttal it with this. Over the last 10 games, the Atlanta Hawks had the 4th best defense in the entire NBA. They had a defensive rating of 110.5 over the last 10 games before the Pistons game. An incredible defense. They've been playing extremely well. Again, they were 8-2 over the last 10 games. Jalen Johnson was playing great. Dyson Daniels was playing great. Onyeka Okongwu was playing great. Okongwu had a really good game against the Pistons tonight. I thought he gave a little bit of a glimpse into the Pistons still have somewhat of an issue guarding stretch bigs. I thought he was giving Duren some problems on the defensive end. When it came to that, he got a lot of clean looks off. The difference was, which we'll talk about, Jalen Duren has not elevated to a point offensively where he's still able, if he gives up something on the defensive end, he's kind of making up for it a little bit offensively with how great he's been. But again, we'll talk about that coming up. So they had a great defense, 4th best defense the previous 10 games. The Pistons, against the Hawks yesterday, had a 121.2 offensive rating against the Hawks. That is the second best offensive performance that any team has had against the Hawks since the end of October, which is basically since Trae Young went down. Because obviously with Trae Young, they're not as good of a defense. Since Trae Young went down, they've been an exceptional defense. So since then, they put up the second best offensive performance against the team that has been just excellent defensively. That doesn't sound like a fluke to me. The Pistons went against a great defense and still had a great offensive performance. They played extremely well in this game. So that was my one stat I wanted to throw out there to kind of back up the whole Pistons aren't beating anybody. These wins aren't impressive. Well, they just took on one of the best defenses in the league and made them look like a poor defense throughout the entirety of this game. So with that said, now let's move on to some of the individual performance in this game. I can't say enough about Cade. Cade he is going to win Clutch Player of the Year if he continues to play like this. He had 9 points again in this fourth quarter. He shot 4 of 7 from the field. And in the final 2 minutes of this game was extremely close. It was a one-possession game. It looked like the Hawks were soaring back. Again, all respect to the Hawks. The Hawks are a very good basketball team, and this was a very fun, competitive game. I said on the last podcast that I feel like all NBA fans should be tuning into this game because this is a game between two of the best teams in the Eastern Conference. I know maybe they weren't expected to be two of the best teams in the Eastern Conference, but they are right now. And it was a very, very good game. I thought it was a very entertaining game. Anyways, at the end of this game, one possession game, very close. In the final 2 minutes, Cade Cunningham got the ball and said, "Move out my way. I'm going to take us to victory." At one play, he drove left from the left wing against Dyson Daniels, a guy who could have won Defensive Player of the Year, was getting a lot of noise for that last year. Drove left on him. Got walled off, went to a counter spin move, dribbled into the right around the free throw line area, and elevated into a Kobe-esque fadeaway over Dyson Daniels, all net, put the Pistons up 2 possessions. Then in the next possession, they get a stop. Cade runs in transition and finishes through contact in transition and puts the Pistons up another possession. Does those back-to-back clutch baskets against a really good defensive player in Dyson Daniels and a really good defense in the Atlanta Hawks. Again, the Pistons' best player, their superstar, their clutch player of the year. He came through when they needed him most. And just like he has multiple times this year, he has come out in the fourth quarter and slammed the door shut on any type of comeback from the opposing team. This is, I think fans, I'm sure they are, but I think fans are probably over the moon with how Cade is playing in the fourth quarter, even if he hasn't been the most efficient to start this season. And really over the last 11 games or over the last 8 games he's played, he's been hovering around like 57 true shooting, which is right around league average over the last few years. So he's played better. A lot of that was weighed down from the beginning of the year, but he's getting better as the game goes on. He gets better in the third quarter. He gets better in the second half, and he gets better this year. He rises to MVP level type of stuff when the team needs him most in the fourth quarter. And that's what one of the biggest complaints from a lot of fans were this last year. And he went to the offseason, worked on it, improved his conditioning, and now he's one of the best fourth quarter players in the league, and it's a big reason why the Pistons were on this win streak. And before I get to Jalen Duren, that's another thing that really confuses me. When I see some of this national talk about, well, the Pistons haven't had a great strength of schedule, sure, first of all, as I've said to you guys over and over and over again, what makes a great team great is most of the time they take care of the teams they're supposed to take care of, and then they split or maybe play just a little bit better than 500 against teams on their level. And all of a sudden at the end of the year, you end up with 50 wins because you beat the teams you're supposed to beat. You maybe win 10 to 13, 15-ish games against teams that are just at your level. You split with them, and now all of a sudden you're at 50 games won. It's not like these great teams, unless you're the Oklahoma City Thunder, it's not like these great teams are just going 90% win rate against teams that are on their level. That's not how it works. But anyways, the other thing that really just confuses me about this is that if you watch the games, if you're watching the Pistons games, especially during this win streak, what makes them so impressive is that the games be in the balance and the Pistons are finding ways to win. The Pistons' best player is outplaying opposing teams' best player. The Pistons' best player is going against good defenses on the other end and slamming the door shut. He's making clutch plays. They're making the winning plays down the stretch. That's what makes a great team great as well. Is there's a skill to learning how to win. There's a skill to winning games. And obviously, on its face, that's an obvious statement. But the point I'm making when I say that is a lot of teams, and we saw this with the Pistons over the last few years, found ways to lose. And when you become a really good team, when you become a great team, you start learning how to win. down the stretch. You start making those winning plays. You don't freak out. You don't panic. You stay calm and you start making those winning plays, and your superstar player comes through when you need him to and hits big time shots to close out the deal. And that's what they've done over and over and over again. The Pistons were in control of this game against the Hawks for a lot of this game. And then the fourth quarter, the Hawks made it a really good game. They tied the game up. It was looking like, oh God, the Hawks might steal this one. And yet again, the Pistons found winning plays. Ausar went crazy defensively in this fourth quarter. I believe he had 2 blocks and a steal just in the fourth quarter alone. Shut down Jalen Johnson. And then Cade went down the other side of the floor and closed the deal out. That's what winning teams do. They close out games like this. So this whole narrative is really frustrating to hear. Just give the Pistons their respect and actually talk about what's happening on the floor. With that said, I know this has been a long segment, but I do want to talk about Jalen Duren here, and we probably will talk about him even more in the second segment, so it's fine that we went a little long. In this game, he had 24 points, 8 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals, and a block, 8 of 12 from the field. He got to the free throw line 11 times. I'm just going to continue to say it, and I'll save the numbers I wanted to use for the second segment, so just stay tuned. But I guess just to give you guys a teaser into what we're going to talk about with Jalen Duren, I can't put enough emphasis about how important and how big time it is that the Pistons have a 5-man that is drawing this many free throws and is shooting this well on free throws. Even shooting around 73% is really good for a big that's drawing this type of volume. It makes the offense so much harder to guard when teams know that once you get 2 feet in the paint, you have such great touch around the basket, which he showcased on a lot of different layups this year. You're able to just dunk through guys. You're probably 99% of the time you're going to be stronger than anyone else that's guarding you in the paint. You're just pushing people around. And then when they do decide, okay, we're not giving you the easy 2, you're going to have to go earn it in the stripe, you're just earning it at the stripe as well. It's such an efficient way of playing basketball. And that's why Jalen Duren is having such an absurd efficient season this year. He's not missing many shots. Like, he's missing 1-2 shots a game. He's playing exceptional, and it's because, obviously, some of the improvements he's made on ball, which we're about to talk about. But the other reason for this, he has a 70 true shooting percentage, and it's because when he gets to the rim, he has such great touch, but teams are deciding to foul him a lot of the time because they can't stop him. And he's just making them pay at the free throw line too. He's really been close to an unstoppable inside the paint once he touches the ball. Once he gets 2 feet in the paint, he's been borderline unstoppable for teams. So we'll dive further into what he's done so well and why that's contributing to maybe the Pistons' half-court offense has been solved. We'll talk about it coming up. And by the way, real quickly, 28 minutes he played. He put up that stat line. He's doing that in 28 minutes of gameplay. It's truly incredibly impressive. But we'll talk about why Duren and some of the other players we've seen play well are contributing to maybe the Pistons' half-court offense is solved this year. We'll talk about it coming up. When Skims announced they were making underwear for men, the reaction made perfect sense. People have been talking about Skims comfort for years. Most guys, though, stick to whatever they've been buying since college. The same fits, the same waistbands that roll, and a whole lot of settling. Skims Men's changes that. On one upgrade, it's obvious why people have been talking about it. They're designed to feel good, fit right, and actually stay put. No slipping, no sagging, no adjusting. Just genuinely great underwear that makes you feel confident and comfortable. What stood out right away was the fit and the fabric. Soft, supportive, and comfortable all day long. They don't ride up, they don't lose their shape, and they hit exactly where they're supposed to on the thigh. I honestly didn't expect underwear to be a game changer, but Skims completely surprised me. So shop Skims Men's now at skims.com, and when you place your order, choose podcast in the post-purchase survey and select our show from the drop-down menu to let them know that we sent you. Plus, the Skims holiday shop is open, so if you're looking for the perfect gifts this season, Skims has you covered. Make sure you go shop Skims now at skims.com. Then I got to tell you guys about another one of our sponsors, FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team is making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. And again, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Head to FanDuel.com, sign up, and play your game with FanDuel. the official sports betting partner of the NBA. So I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button or leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. That's another great way to support the podcast. The Pistons half-court offense might be getting solved in real time. And coming into the year, for me and for a lot of people, the biggest concern with the Pistons offensively, and really with the team overall, was their half-court offense. They were not a very good half-court offense this past year. They were not a very good half-court offense in the playoffs as well. And they made up for that by being one of the very best defenses in the entire NBA. And they made up for that by being one of the best fast-break teams in the league, one of the best second-chance teams in the league, being one of the best early transition teams in the league, and scoring off points off turnover. So that's how they made their hay, and it worked, and it's still working this year. They're doing all those things still. That's their identity. But as I heard throughout the offseason from people I talked with around the organization and people who analyze, obviously, this team, you need a good half-court offense if you want to take the next step. You can't be a poor half-court offense. It's going to be hard to take the next step if you are a poor half-court offense. And now, with the Pistons on an 11-game win streak, I decided to go ahead and look at, my goodness, that hurt. Sorry about that. I decided to go ahead and look at the Pistons' last 11 games and see how are they performing within the half court. Here are the Pistons' numbers right now, guys. The Pistons over the last 11 games, which is really another way to look at it. It isn't just the fact they're on an 11-game win streak. They could have lost a game in this. They could have lost 2 games, and I still would have looked at this sample as being very important, because what it really marks for me is the Cleveland loss. The way they played the first 4 games of the year, and then especially the Cleveland loss, it was a completely different type of team that we're watching now. So whether they were 9-2, 8-3, even 7-4 over this stretch, the fact that they've won 11 straight games isn't why I'm using this stretch. It's because the first 4 games of the year, they just looked completely out of sorts, and they didn't look like they were well accustomed to each other at all. So I'm just using since the Cleveland loss. I think that's the turning point of the beginning of the year. It's not about 11-game win streak. It's just that loss was so bad, they turned it around after that. So anyways, over the last 11 games, they have the 5th best net rating in the NBA. They have the 3rd best defense in the entire NBA. This is according to defensive rating. They have the 7th best overall offense in the NBA. Again, they have a top 7 offense and defense over the last 11 games. They also have the very best half-court defense in the NBA over the last 11 games. You go against the Pistons, they are making life literally hell in the half-court. It doesn't matter what you have on the other end. The personnel in which the Pistons now have on the defensive end of the floor, and I would say the added buy-in that you're getting consistently play-to-play, game-to-game from Jalen Duren, but also Cade Cunningham, the Pistons' size and length is just, we already know how great defenders Ausar is, and Isaiah Stewart is, and Ron Holland is. By having that kind of buy-in from Jalen Duren, and having this buy-in from your best player to be as good as we know he can be in Cade, play-to-play, is just making their half-court defense truly just a literal hell on anyone that goes against it. It's hard to score against the Pistons in the half court. Absolutely hard. And Jackson Frank, I forget where Jackson writes for now. Sportscasting, I believe it is. He wrote a really good article. He's been in the NBA space for a long time. Really a great person covering the NBA. He wrote an article talking about the Pistons defense. And this is something that you hear when you're at the games, but JB has like this no middle mentality, no middle key to the defense. If you watch the Pistons play, they try to push all of their opponents to the sideline, push all of their opponents to the baseline. They try to keep them away from getting into the middle, because the middle obviously is the heart of the defense, and it makes people help down. You can get kickouts out of it. The Pistons make it very hard on teams to get into the middle, especially when you have someone like Ausar at the point of attack who gets over screens. His screen navigation is so good that it makes it hard for opponents' ball handlers to get to their spots in the mid-range, or not in the mid-range, in the middle of the floor, because Ausar is getting over the screen, even when you set a screen, and beating you to that spot and making you turn. So And then you also have been getting better point of attack defense from guys like Karis LeVert as well, who has more size and length, and even Daniss Jenkins, who's been playing really hard and has some physicality to him as well. So, along with the obvious, you have the playmakers defensively too. The Pistons have guys who get deflections and just make plays. So that's their half-court defense. We haven't even got to the main part of this that I wanted to talk about. Along with all this stuff I just hit on, they have the 8th best, you guys are hearing me correctly, they have the 8th best half-court offense in the NBA over the last 11 games. They're not just dominating on defense. They're not just dominating on the glass. They're not just dominating in the paint. They're not just dominating in points off turnovers, on fast breaks. They're not just getting a ton of blocks. They're not just getting a bunch of steals. They're not just getting a bunch of deflections. They are also, when you force them to slow down, when you are forcing them to play within the half court, when you do finally score on them and they have to walk it up and play in the half court, they are picking you apart. They are picking you apart to start this season. Why is that happening? I think one of the main reasons, to go back to Jalen Duren, is how efficient he is playing and how much he has improved in one-on-one situations, on dribble drives, and also how much more comfortable he has gotten playing as a scorer against 4-on-3 situations. I want to start with his one-on-one play. So far this year, he is scoring 1.25 points per possession on drives to the basket. That is absurd. Scoring over 1.2 points on every single drive, that is insane efficiency. Just absurd efficiency that he is having. Anytime he drives to the basket, he is drawing points. It's almost an automatic point for the Pistons. Actually, it is an automatic point every single time he drives to the basket. It's absurd efficiency. And along with this, when he's in isolation, he has had 18 isolation possessions according to Synergy this year. That is the most he's ever had just in this kind of game, 11 game sample. Whatever. He's never had this kind of usage. And he's in the 88th percentile in isolation. 88th percentile. He's one of the very best. Now, again, it's not like he's Harden. He's not having 5, 6, 7 isolation possessions a game. But he has increased his usage. He has increased his scoring responsibility. And he's been overly efficient with that responsibility. Usually when you see guys take on a larger load, you see the efficiency drop a little bit because it's something new and it's harder to do. It's harder to continue to be as efficient with higher volume. And Duren is completely shattering that. He's been absurd offensively. And then to hit on what he's doing against 4-on-3s. You saw this against the Hawks, and you're seeing this really throughout the stretch, but against the Hawks, it really popped as well. Cade is drawing 2 almost every single time they run a ball screen. Heck, sometimes even when he doesn't run a ball screen, I was watching the Hawks play like a 2-3 zone, but it really was like a kind of like a box and one against Cade. They were just, as soon as Cade got past half court, they had 2 guys kind of up there just trapping Cade. And it was kind of like a 2-3, but it really was just a trap Cade and we'll rotate back before he can even get to the 3-point line. And in those situations, Duren has obviously been a very good passer in those situations. But Duren, and I did a film breakdown on this over on the Substack, I believe last week. Duren has become so much more comfortable, so much more patient, and the footwork is so much more better. He knows how to leverage his strength so much more now that when he catches the ball inside the paint within 10 feet, when it's 4-on-3, he understands and recognizes it's probably not going to be against someone of his stature, of his strength, of his size, and he just moves people out the way. So now, yes, he can make the kick out to a corner 3. He can make the dump off pass to Ausar cutting down. But he also, which he's been doing a ton this year, which is just generating easy points every time a team traps Cade, but he's just catching the ball, drop stepping or giving a quick shoulder, and then just dunking over someone, or just finishing over someone, pausing for a second, waiting for everyone to calm down, and then just taking a spin move, or taking one dribble drop step and just finishing over a defender at the rim. He is making teams absolutely pay for running double teams and trapping Cade, which then teams now are left with a dilemma. Are we going to trap Cade and give Jalen Duren, who's been one of the most efficient scorers in the NBA in this kind of play style, where he's just going to dominate us, whoever we have rotating down, and if we foul him, he's going to make free throws. Are we going to do that? Okay, we're not going to trap. Okay, now we can just run ball screen with Cade now. And Cade's either going to get all the way to the basket, find himself in the mid-range, or he's going to throw a lob to Duren, or he's going to find a wide-open three-point shooter. And now he's killing you that way as well. See, along with the Pistons dominating on 4-and-3 situations, along with the Pistons dominating out of traps, which, by the way, Cade, there was a stat I saw today that I wanted to make sure you guys saw. Cade's scoring turnover percentage is at 93rd percentile. That's good. It means that when he's in opportunities to score and trying to score, he is not turning the ball over nearly as much as he did last year. That was one of the worst things Cade had this past year, is that he was turning the ball over a ton, especially in scoring situations. And this year he is taking much better care of the basketball, and the Pistons are winning the possession battle. To give you guys a better understanding of this as well, last year Cade had a 16.0 turnover percentage. This year he has a 12.3 turnover percentage while still maintaining that same usage. This would be a career low for Cade in turnover percentage despite having a 32.4 usage rate. He has cut the turnovers down insanely, to an insane degree this year, especially, like I said, in scoring situations. So not only is Duren making you pay in the pick and roll, not only is he making you pay in the 4-and-3 situations, but then when you decide not to trap, Cade is coming off ball screens and just making you pay, whether it's a score on a lob or a kick out three. Another number to back this up, the Pistons across the NBA are in the 87th percentile on pick and rolls this year. That would rank, if Synergy can load up, they are the 4th best pick and roll team in the league this year. And that's while having 275 possessions of it. It's not like it's not a big volume or it's not something it's a mainstay of their offense. It's one of their most important offenses. It's what they've run almost every possession. And they are the 4th best team in the NBA, scoring 0.95 points per possession on pick and rolls. They've been fantastic this year on pick and rolls. As a pick and roll man in the NBA, across the league, the Pistons are 2nd in the NBA on their pick and roll men scoring efficiently out of pick and rolls. So whether it's as a ball handler scoring, whether it's a ball handler finding passes, or whether it's the pick and roll man finishing these passes, again, if you want to do pick and roll ball handler including passes, the Pistons still rank 5th in the NBA, 87th percentile. You include passes, they're at 1.05 points per possession. So they're just dominating teams in the half court because Duren has improved to such a degree in killing teams when they trap Cade. Cade has not turned the ball over as much. He has improved as a finisher at the rim. That's another area of his game that we haven't really talked about and hit on. We will definitely talk about it moving forward in a future podcast. His finishing around the basket has gotten so much better. But he's also finding open three-point shooters. He's getting the ball out of his hands quickly when he is getting trapped. And they're just picking defenses apart in the half court. It's incredibly impressive what the Pistons are doing to start this year, especially in the half-court offense. When you think about a team that everyone said their biggest weakness would be half-court scoring because they don't have a lot of creators. So this is incredibly impressive. This is probably the most impressive part of the Pistons season so far to me. This was a very long segment, but it had a lot of information that I had to get out and just showcase how good the Pistons have been in the half-court. So let me know in the comment section down below or over on Twitter at Khahil how you guys feel about this team and how they're performing in the half court. Coming up, the Pistons have a few unlikely contributors playing really well, and I want to touch again on the rotation and what it could look like moving forward coming up. If you're a business owner, here's the truth. SaaS promised to make work easier, but now the average company is buried by hundreds of apps that slow down your teams and don't simply work together. That's not SaaS, that's SAD, software as a disservice, and that's why you need Rippling. Rippling is the unified platform for global HR, payroll, IT, and finance all in one place. They've helped millions of businesses replace a mess of disconnected tools with one system designed to give leaders clarity, speed, and control. Whether you want to run your HR, IT, and finance operations as one, or just fill the gaps in your software stack, Rippling can do it all. And right now, you can get 6 months free when you go to rippling.com/LockedOnNBA. Learn more at rippling.com/LockedOnNBA. That's rippling.com/LockedOnNBA for 6 months free with Rippling. So I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button or leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. That's another great way to support the podcast. We've hit a lot on, Daniss Jenkins on the podcast lately. And we're going to do it again here because he's just played so well. I feel like it would be unfair to not to continue to give him credit. but it's not just him. Daniss in this game, 14 points, 7 assists, 1 turnover on 6 of 10 shooting. He played really well. He was in the starting lineup. He played 29 minutes, and he just continues to just play exceptional. Like, the fact that I know I'm going to sound like a broken record, but I feel like it's deserving. The fact that the Pistons have hit on the margins this well on a guy that's a two-way player, was undrafted, a 5-year college player, and find him and him impact the game as much as he has over the last 5 games. Over the last 5 games, he's averaging 20 points a game on 7.6 assists on 58.4 true shooting. He's been efficient. He's hitting shots. He's playing defense. He's having 2 steals a game also over these last 5 games. He's given his all on the defensive end of the floor. He's making plays. He's getting key rebounds. I think that's another thing that people aren't really noticing with him. And that's really across the board defensively for the Pistons. Like, even Chaz had a few big rebounds. We'll talk about Chaz coming up, but Javonte Green as well. Obviously, Ausar, Cade, even Duncan. Like, they have a lot of guys crashing the glass and getting key rebounds when they need it. And getting that kind of effort from your guards is a big deal. So, Daniss is playing extremely well. He continues to play extremely well. And another player who has been playing consistently over this stretch of games where the Pistons are not only winning, but also dealing with these injuries is Chaz Lanier. And I've said over and over, when I've seen him play, he just sticks out to me as like, he just does the right thing. Like, he's usually in the right place all the time. He's usually, rotating and relocating, I should say, offensively and finding open spots to get a catch and shoot 3 off. In this game, he finally saw his 3-point shot start to fall as much as he'd like to. He started taking a little bit more contested threes. He started to feel a little bit more confident. He went through 7 from deep in this game. He looked really good. But really, before this game, he wasn't hitting his 3 as much as you'd like to see it. But even he was still playing the same way, and it still was pretty impressive. He was playing hard on defense, making the right rotations. Again, his wingspan pops off the screen when you watch him. He looks stronger than you would have thought coming out of the draft. His wingspan, again, looks longer when you watch him live. It gives him a chance defensively and allows him to make some of the plays he's making defensively. I think that's been one of the things that have jumped off to me the most. But yeah, I mean, he had a really good game. He had 9 points in this game, but over the last 5 games, he's played 26 minutes, 18 minutes, 18 minutes, 18 minutes, 10 minutes, and he's contributed to all these wins. He's playing well. So you can't give these guys enough credit for stepping off when injuries are happening and playing well and contributing, again, not to a bad team, not to an average team. They're helping contribute to the best team in the Eastern Conference so far, to a team that is 13-2. That's who they're contributing to. So you got to give these guys the absolute utmost credit and respect for how well they're playing. And I want to wrap it up by talking about the rotation now. And we've talked about it now multiple times, and we'll probably continue going to talk about it until everybody gets healthy. But, like, Daniss is playing so well that there is no way he can leave the rotation. And Chaz, you did use a draft pick on him, and he's looked well. He's looked really good in his minutes, I would say. Now, I'm not saying that Chaz has forced his hand to where he has to be in the rotation, but it's like, okay, well, I drafted this dude. In the minutes he's playing, playing well. Like, I like what he's bringing. He's hitting shots. He's playing defense. He's spacing the floor. Like, I probably would like to see him play. I'm assuming I'm talking from like Trajan's point of view, or really the team's point of view. You got Ron Holland, who obviously is going to have to play. He's going to get his minutes. Javonte Green has been an absolute dog. And is just making winning plays all the time when he's on the floor. He was a guy that maybe you weren't expecting to be in the rotation, but it continues to play extremely well and playing extremely hard and playing Detroit type of basketball. And he played 28 minutes in this game. And you did this in a game where you did not have Karis LeVert, Jay and Ivey, or Tobias Harris. So those are 3 guys that you have to try to find in the rotation and get their minutes, while also these other guys are playing so well that you're like, do we really want to take them out the rotation as well? So it's like it's a good problem, but also like a tough issue a tough problem to navigate as well. And then there's another thing. I've seen a lot of people talking about it, like, does Tobias get his starting spot back when he comes back healthy? I think he has to. I don't see how you bench Tobias, but if you do bench Tobias, one of the thoughts was, okay, well, if you play Stu and Duren in the starting lineup, then you can still create minutes for Paul Reed. But is that really true? Because how is Tobias still going to get to his minutes? Are you going to play 12 people in a rotation every night? That's not going to be the team is really good. The team is playing extremely well, and everyone should be proud of the team. And look, every player that stepped up has done their job, and you love to see it. I am going to continue to talk about this and be extremely interested in what JB does, because I don't think this is an easy decision, especially with what are you going to do in the starting lineup? What are you going to do with the type of lamps you want to play? What are the combinations you're going to want to go to? And who ends up losing their spot? And who are your big minute getters? Like that's another thing, too, that people aren't really talking about. Like, people say, oh, yeah, well, he'll play. Well, like, how many minutes are you going to be getting these guys? Because, like, you want Cade, Ausar, Duren, you want them to get their minutes. You want, I'm going to be very interested to see how JB handles this. Absolutely. And this is another thing, too, and we'll wrap it up here, actually. We'll wrap it up right here with this point. You bet, everyone needs to be hoping that by the time Ivy and Tobias come back, that Ausar, Cade, Duren, all these guys are, like, at 100%. Because if you're trying to work those guys back into the rotation after missing Ivy for what's been a year, and Tobias probably it's going to be at like 10-plus games at that point, if you're going to try to work them back into the rotation, them not being 100% stamina-wise or need to knock off the rust, and then you're also trying to work Ausar back into game shape and play at his peak self, which JB talked about at the end of the game, or Cade, or JD, all these guys, I think that could actually cause the Pistons issues when you're trying to work so many guys back into a rotation that aren't at 100%. You kind of have to be careful with everybody. I think that could be a problem. So I think you really, really need to hope that when those guys come back, the other guys that are already here are at 100% to where now it's just, okay, we're working Ivy and Tobias back in, and it's not we're trying to work around everybody trying to get back to 100%, and now it gets confusing. So good problem to have. I think a tough problem at some point, but also a good problem. Let me know what you guys think. Comment section down below or over on Twitter at Khahil. That's all I've got for you guys today. Thank you guys for making Locked On Pistons your first listen every single day. Hit that subscribe button on the YouTube channel if you haven't already. Leave us a 5-star review, whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. And until next time, I will see you guys later. Stay safe out there, and peace out, everybody.